John chapter 11. At that time, there was a man named Lazarus who lived in Bethany, the same town where Mary and her sister Martha resided. Mary, the one who had once anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, was Lazarus' sister, and he was currently sick. So, Lazarus' sisters sent a message to Jesus, saying, "Lord, the one you love is sick." Upon hearing this, Jesus replied, "This sickness will not end in death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it." It's important to note that Jesus had a special affection for Martha, her sister, and Lazarus. Yet, upon hearing about Lazarus' sickness, he stayed where he was for 2 more days. Afterward, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let's go to Judea again." The disciples expressed their concerns, saying, "Master, recently the Jews there tried to stone you, and now you want to go back." Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours in a day? If anyone walks during the day, they won't stumble because they have the light of the world to guide them. But if someone walks at night, they stumble because they lack light." Jesus spoke this metaphorically and then said, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to awaken him." The disciples misunderstood, thinking that Jesus meant Lazarus was resting in sleep. So Jesus clarified, "Lazarus is dead. And for your sake, I'm glad I wasn't there, so that you may believe. But let's go to him now." Thomas, also known as Didymus, said to the other disciples, "Let's go with him, so we can die with him." When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days already. Bethany was about 15 furlongs from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to comfort Martha and Mary. Martha, upon learning that Jesus was approaching, went out to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you." Jesus assured her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha replied, "I know he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." Jesus then declared, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even if they die, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" Martha answered, "Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who was to come into the world." After this, she secretly went to Mary, saying, "The teacher is here and is calling for you." As soon as Mary heard this, she got up and went to Jesus. Jesus had not yet entered the town but was still in the place where Martha met him. The Jews who were comforting Mary saw her get up hastily and followed her, thinking she was going to the tomb to weep. When Mary reached Jesus and fell at his feet, she said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Seeing Mary weeping and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, Jesus was deeply moved and troubled. He asked, "Where have you laid him?" They replied, "Lord, come and see." And then, Jesus wept. The Jews remarked, "See how he loved him." However, some questioned why Jesus, who had healed the blind, couldn't have prevented Lazarus' death. Once again, Jesus was moved, and he approached the tomb, a cave with a stone covering the entrance. Martha, Lazarus' sister, cautioned him, "Lord, there will be a stench, for he has been dead for 4 days." Jesus reminded her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they removed the stone, and Jesus lifted his eyes and prayed, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I know that you always hear me, but I say this for the sake of the people standing here, that they may believe you sent me." After speaking these words, Jesus called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." And miraculously, the dead man emerged from the tomb, still bound in burial cloths, with a cloth covering his face. Jesus instructed those around him, "Unbind him and let him go." Witnessing this incredible event, many of the Jews who had come to comfort Mary believed in Jesus. However, some went to the Pharisees and reported what Jesus had done. In response, the chief priests and the Pharisees convened a council and discussed the situation. They feared that if they left Jesus unchecked, everyone would believe in him, and the Romans might come and take away their positions and their nation. Caiaphas, the high priest that year, spoke up, saying, "You know nothing at all, and you fail to consider that it is better for one man to die for the people than for the whole nation to perish. Caiaphas's words, though not his own, unwittingly prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation and gather together the scattered children of God. From that day on, the religious authorities conspired to put Jesus to death. As a result, Jesus no longer walked openly among the Jews but withdrew to a region near the wilderness, to a city called Ephraim, where he continued to teach his disciples. As the Jewish Passover approached, many people from the countryside went to Jerusalem to purify themselves. They began to speculate among themselves whether Jesus would attend the feast. The chief priests and Pharisees had issued a command that if anyone knew where Jesus was, they should report it, so they could apprehend him.